The first rays of the twin suns crested the horizon, painting the citadel's towers in soft gold and violet light as Captain Alina Roy and Matriarch. Catherine stood side by side on the central dais, their shared banner fluttering gently behind them. Elena's uniform was dusted with morning dew, and Catheria's robes glimmered where the storm's energy had nourished the broken vines of the ramparts. Together, they watched as workers human and Esseran alike moved among the gardens, and repair teams, clearing debris and planting new seedlings around the earth, sapling that now stretched slender branches toward the warming sky. The two leaders exchanged a quiet smile, feeling in their hearts the hopeful pulse of a future they had helped shape. Below them, the crowds gathered, children with curious eyes, elders wrapped in blankets of woven light, and soldiers whose shoulders no longer held the weight of suspicion. As the citadel awakened, Alina gently brushed a loose strand of hair from her face and spoke in her clear, steady voice. Today we begin not just to rebuild walls and gardens, but to build a bond that will last beyond any storm. Catheri's many eyes softened, and she responded in the ancient Isharan tongue words of blessing, promise, and unity that Alina had learned to pronounce with care. Their voices, one human and one alien, rose together in a melody that carried across the courtyard like a gentle wind, weaving hope into every heart. As the final note faded, Alina stepped down from the dais, motioning for Catheri to join her among the workers. Side by side, they knelt by the sapling's roots, pressing fresh soil around its base and laying colorful stones gifted by the citadel's artisans. Each stone bore a symbol: courage, compassion, resilience, and remembrance. Alina traced the symbol for resilience and whispered, "We remember our th in every act of kindness." Cathari felt her memory stern it as a sorrowful echo, but as a guiding light, reminding her that love endures when given freely. A gentle breeze carried petals from the sacred flowers above, and Alina reached out to catch one, holding it between her fingers before offering it to Catheri. The matriarch accepted it and tucked it into Alina's braid, as the Yesseran children watched with wide, bright smiles. Laughter rose around them as workers paused to greet the leaders, with nods and words of gratitude, simple thanks in many tongues, yet all carrying the same warmth. Alina stood and offered her hand to Catheri. The matriarch placed a slender limb atop Alina's palm, and together they raised their joined hands high. At that moment, the two suns shone fully above, casting a dual shadow that merged into one beneath them. Cheers erupted as the crowds lifted banners earth blue crossed with Isharan violet tanned, marched in celebration through the gardens, their steps echoing with music played on strings of both human steel and alien crystal. Alina and Catheri walked among them, pausing to embrace a child whose toy spacecraft was fashioned from glowing wood, and to accept a woven bracelet from an elder who entrusted them with a whispered prayer for lasting peace. Each gesture, each smile wove new threads into the tapestry of their alliance. As the procession circled back to the dais, Lena turned to Catheri and spoke of plans to share Earth's knowledge of medicine and art in exchange for the Esseron secrets of energy harmonies and bioluminescent cultivation. Catheri's eyes shone with excitement. She envisioned libraries of shared lore and gardens blooming with the fruits of two worlds intertwined. When the morning ceremony drew to a close, Alina looked out over the citadel one last time before she and Catheri stepped down from the dais. Together, they walked through the newly cleared corridors toward the matriarch's private garden, where two benches awaited beneath an arch of intertwined vines. They sat in companionable silence, watching leaves unfurl in the sunlight, knowing the road ahead would bring challenges, but trusting that their bond and the memory of a fallen friend would guide them through whatever lay beyond the horizon. In that peaceful dawn, the citadel truly felt reborn, not just as a stronghold of stone and crystal, but as a living testament to the promise that two worlds, united by loss and hope, could grow stronger together. The first rays of the twin suns crested the horizon, painting the citadel's towers in soft gold and violet light as Captain Alina Roy and Matriarch Catheri stood side by side on the central dais, their shared banner fluttering gently behind them. Elena's uniform was dusted with morning dew, and Catherine's robes glimmered where the storm's energy had nourished the broken vines of the ramparts. Together they watched as workers, human and Yesharan alike, moved among the gardens and repair teams, clearing debris and planting new seedlings around the earth, sapling that now stretched slender branches toward the warming sky. The two leaders exchanged a quiet smile, feeling in their hearts the hopeful pulse of a future they had helped shape. Below them, the crowds gathered, children with curious eyes, elders wrapped in blankets of woven light, and soldiers whose shoulders no longer held the weight of suspicion. As the citadel awakened, Alina gently brushed a loose strand of hair from her face and spoke in her clear, steady voice. Today, we begin not just to rebuild walls and gardens, but to build a bond that will last beyond any storm. Catherine's many eyes softened. She responded in the ancient Esseran tongue words of blessing, promise, and unity that Alina had learned to pronounce with care. Their voices, one human and one alien, rose together in a melody that carried across the courtyard like a gentle wind, weaving hope into every heart. As the final note faded, Alina stepped down from the dais, motioning for K3 to join her among the workers. Side by side, they knelt by the sapling's roots, pressing fresh soil around its base and laying colorful stones gifted by the citadel's artisans. Each stone bore a symbol: courage, compassion, resilience, and remembrance. Alina traced the symbol for resilience and whispered, "We remember our Ta in every act of kindness." Catheri felt her memory stirred as a sorrowful echo, but as a guiding light, reminding her that love endures when given freely. A gentle breeze carried petals from the sacred flowers above, and Alina reached out to catch one, holding it between her fingers before offering it to Catheri. The matriarch accepted it and tucked it into Elena's braid, as the Esheran children watched with wide, bright smiles. Laughter rose around them as workers paused to greet the leaders. With nods and words of gratitude, simple thanks in many tongues, yet all carrying the same warmth. Alina stood and offered her hand to Catheri. The matriarch placed a slender limb atop Elena's palm, and together they raised their joined hands high. At that moment, the two suns shone fully above, casting a dual shadow that merged into one beneath them. Cheers erupted as the crowds lifted banners. Lift blue-crossed with Asheron Violetan marched in celebration through the gardens, their steps echoing with music played on strings of both human steel and alien crystal. Alina and Catheri walked among them, pausing to embrace a child whose toy spacecraft was fashioned from glowing wood, and to accept a woven bracelet from an elder who entrusted them with a whispered prayer for lasting peace. Each gesture, each smile wove new threads into the tapestry of their alliance. As the procession circled back to the dais, Lena turned to Catheri and spoke of plans to share Earth's knowledge of medicine and art in exchange for the Yusharan secrets of energy harmonies and motley luminescent cultivation. Catheri's eyes shone with excitement. She envisioned libraries of shared lore and gardens blooming with the fruits of two worlds intertwined. When the morning ceremony drew to a close, Alina looked out over the citadel one last time before she and Catheri stepped down from the dais. Together, they walked through the newly cleared corridors toward the matriarch's private garden, where two benches awaited beneath an arch of intertwined vines. They sat in companionable silence, watching leaves unfurl in the sunlight, knowing the road ahead would bring challenges, but trusting that their bond and the memory of a fallen friend would guide them through whatever lay beyond the horizon. In that peaceful dawn, the citadel truly felt reborn, not just as a stronghold of stone and crystal, but as a living testament to the promise that two worlds, united by loss and hope, could grow stronger together. Dark clouds coalesced above the citadel, their edges crackling with violet lightning that danced across the night sky like restless spirits. Traders' ships hovering at the great gates, dozens of meters away, hesitated, their hulls reflecting the ominous glow as captains weighed the risk of docking under an uncertain alliance. Whispers spread among the Yusharan sentries. Some feared that humans would turn their backs in the moment of crisis. Others wondered if the matriarch's trust had been misplaced. Alina stood at the forefront of the courtyard, her silhouette framed by the trembling glow of barricade lights. She lifted her voice above the murmurs, steady and true, reminding the watchers of the sapling they had planted, of the trial they had passed together, and of the strength born from unity. Her words flowed like a calm river through a storm, carrying the promise that neither species would face this peril alone. As thunder rumbled overhead, Alina gathered her peacekeeping force and the Yesharan guardians into organized ranks. Not as enemies preparing for war, but as protectors preparing to shield the innocent. Soldiers from Earth and warriors of Yeshara moved side by side, linking arms and adjusting energy barriers that glowed with a soft teal light borrowed from Esseran technology. The humans shared compact shield generators, while the Yeshara offered crystalline conductors that could absorb and diffuse the charged particles of the coming storm. Alina walked among them, offering quiet words of encouragement. "We stand." "Together," she repeated, each time her tone infused with genuine care. In her simple English, she emphasized compassion. "We defend life, not destroy it." And each guardian, human and alien alike, felt the weight of responsibility transform into a shared hope. High atop the central dais, Cathari addressed her people. Her many limbs moved in graceful arcs as she spoke, her voice a gentle hum that carried both authority and tenderness. She reminded the Yeshara of ancestors who had faced cosmic tempests and had prevailed by forging alliances beyond their own kin. She invoked the memory of art not as a ghost to haunt them, but as a guide whose compassion had led her to trust a stranger. "Let fear be our teacher, not our master," she declared, her many-faceted eyes shining with resolve. As she spoke, trade captains on hovering platforms exchanged glances, some nodding in silent respect as they released their own supply drones to assist in reinforcing the citadel's outer wards. Children peered from behind carved stone pillars, their wide eyes reflecting the swirling light above and the unified force below. Together, human engineers and Exaran artisans wove strands of earth steel and alien bioglass into woven girders that arced above the ramparts like living bridges. Alina and Cathari moved among them, side by side, offering hands to steady a loose panel or to guide a careful placement of energy nodes. When the first bolt of charged particles struck newly raised barrier, it shimmered and held firm, dispersing the storm's fury in ripples of light that fell harmlessly to the ground like gentle rain. Gasps rose from the crowd, and then cheers, tentative at first, then swelling into a triumphant roar that echoed through the citadel's domes. Cathari laid a slender limb on Elena's shoulder in a gesture of deep gratitude, and Elena placed her hand over the Matriarch's in return, their bond sealed by shared action and mutual respect. As the storm began to wane, its fiercest winds spent by the combined defenses, both species stood together under the now clearing sky. Broken vines on nearby walls glowed with renewed energy, fed by the spirit of unity that had shielded them. Soldiers lowered their weapons and shields, embracing neighbors who had once been strangers. Trade ships that had hovered in doubt now descended, bringing supplies to aid in repairs and celebrations alike. Alina and Cathari climbed the steps to the dais, where they planted a shared banner half earth blue, half Yesharan violet, joined by a simple white line that represented their common promise. Standing before the gathered crowd, they watched the first clear stars emerge above the citadel, their light a testament to what could be achieved when hearts opened and hands joined across worlds. In that moment, the storm became not a harbinger of destruction, but a catalyst for hope, marking the dawn of an alliance that would shape the future of both species for generations to come. Captain Alina Roy and Matriarch Cathari stood at the entrance to the Trial of the Heart, a dimly lit chamber where glowing vines curled around tall pillars like curious sentinels. The vaulting ceiling, bathed in soft blue light, and the air smelled faintly of damp earth and blooming flowers. Alina glanced at Cathari, her hand steady on the vine-bound gate. Cathari met Elena's gaze with many eyes full of both hope and apprehension. Elena offered Cathari a gentle nod, and the matriarch dropped the woven blindfold over both their faces. Elena's fingers brushed Cathari's slender arm in reassurance. Although Cathari trusted her human friend, uncertainty fluttered in her core. Elena tightened her grip, conveying a silent promise they would guide each other safely through whatever lay ahead. They stepped into darkness together. Underfoot, the stone path pulsed with soft light, illuminating the glowing vines that lined the winding corridor. The vines reacted to their fears, twisting and narrowing when doubt crept in. Alina took a careful breath, recalling Tess' brave laughter, and spoke softly. "Trust my voice. I will lead." Catheri nodded, her antennae quivering with the sound of Elena's calm tone. Elena's foot found a raised pedal, and she whispered, "Step gently." Catheri followed, her multiple limbs moving in delicate rhythm. A sudden shiver ran through the vines, and the path ahead constricted, as if testing their resolve. Alina paused and placed her hand over Catheri's. "We are stronger together," she said. Catheri felt warmth bloom in her chest, guiding her limbs to move forward with confidence as they turned a corner. The vines glowed brighter, revealing hidden thorns that brushed against Catheri's robes. Alina lifted her voice in a gentle hum that soothed the plants, causing the thorns to retract. Catheri marveled at the human's ability to calm living things with simple kindness. Each note of Elena's hum felt like a gentle caress, and Catheri realized she could share that calm with Elena in return. They reached a chamber where floating orbs of light drifted above a shallow pool. The corridor behind them was swallowed by shadows. Elena whispered, "I will cross first. Reach for my hand." Catheri extended a trembling limb and felt Elena's firm grip. Step by step, they waded through cool water that shimmered with starlight reflections. The sensation made Catheri think of Earth's oceans, and she inhaled memories of art, describing waves under a pink sunset. Halfway across, an orb drifted low, blocking their path. Alina smiled under the blindfold. "Shift your weight with me," she said. Catheri bent her limbs, and together they guided the orb aside. As the orb floated past, Elena's hum returned, and Catheri added her own soft chant, an ancient Yeshurun melody. Their voices blended, and the chamber seemed to glow warmer as though recognizing their unity, emerging onto dry stone. Alina and Catheri followed a final stretch of vines that arched overhead like a living tunnel. The vines glimmered with hopeful light, and Alina guided Catheri's steps by the sound of her heartbeat. Catheri felt her own steady pulse echoed through her limbs. When they reached the gate at the trial's end, Alina withdrew the blindfold. Light flooded their eyes, revealing the council's gathered watchers. Yeshurun faces and human helmets glowed in the chamber's soft radiance. Alina released Catheri's hand and turned to her with tears gleaming in her eyes. Catheri's many eyes shimmered with gratitude and pride. They had faced their fears together and emerged stronger for it. Alina bowed her head respectfully to the watchers. Catheri lifted one slender limb in solemn greeting. The council broke into slow applause, mingled with quiet cheers. Alina reached for Catheri's hand again, and the Matriarch placed a small wreath of glowing flowers upon Elena's braid. Each flower pulsed with gentle light, symbolizing unity born of mutual trust. Hand in hand, human and alien stood before the witnesses, hearts aligned like the twin moons above. In that sacred chamber, they had proven that fear could be faced, and divisions bridged when guided by compassion and understanding. Their triumph echoed through the citadel, sowing seeds of hope that would blossom long after the trial of the heart was complete. Catheri led Alina down a narrow corridor lit by soft, pulsating glyphs that seemed to breathe with ancient power. The walls themselves whispered of old tales of cosmic storms that once swept across the stars and of heroes who rose to meet them. Elena's steady footsteps echoed beside the Matriarch's gentle glide, and she asked in a low voice about the citadel's hidden archives. Catheri paused before a heavy door carved with a coiling dragon-like creature, its eyes set with glowing amber stones. With a careful touch, she traced the creature's scale pattern and spoke the old, unlocking prayer. The door swung open to reveal shelves carved from living wood, each branch holding scrolls that hummed with quiet energy. Elena's eyes shone as she stepped inside, running her fingers along the spines of histories written in light. Catheri selected a scroll bound in silver vines and unrolled it on a low stone table. Together they read of a prophecy, a dark, wave of charged particles that would return on the 9th cycle of the twin moons and consume all life unless two worlds stood as one. As Elena's translation voice trembled slightly, Catherine felt a shiver echo through her limbs. Behind them, the council's strongest voices rose in alarm, their words sharp as shards of crystal. "We must rebuild our shields," one advisor demanded. "We cannot trust humans," another warned, folding her arms in rigid disapproval. Elena stepped forward, her calm tone weaving through the tension. She reminded them of the sapling they had planted and of the ceremony that had bound their peoples in hope. She spoke of Earth's defenders who had faced their own cosmic storms and of the courage found in shared purpose. Catherine listened and felt warmth grow in her heart, a warmth that Atat's memory had once kindled. She turned to her council, her voice clear and unwavering. "We will stand with the humans," she declared, and a hush fell over the room. Fear remained at the edges of every gaze, but in Elena's steady nod and Catheri's firm stance they saw a promise. Stronger than any shield, that together they could face the coming storm with unity, compassion, in the memory of a lost friend guiding their resolve. Captain Elena Roy stood beneath the ancient blossoms of the Eucheron Grove. The sapling she had brought from Earth cradled gently in her palms as morning light filtered through bioluminescent petals overhead. Catheri hovered beside her, her many-limbed silhouette brushing against soft moss, watching Elena's careful hands as though they held the key to a fragile promise. Elena spoke softly of Earth's first gardens, of how every seed carried hope within its shell, and how tending new life was an act of friendship that could bridge any divide. With deliberate patience, she placed the sapling into a circular bed of moonlit soil, its roots seeking purchase in this alien ground as if longing for home. Catherine extended a slender limb, offering a handful of silvery pebbles that the Yashara believed carried memories of ancestors' dreams. Elena accepted them with a grateful nod and scattered the stones gently around the young tree's base. The Watchers' Council gathered in a quiet ring, their faces open yet cautious, as they observed this silent exchange of trust blossoming under foreign stars. A gentle breeze stirred the petals above, sending a soft rain of luminescent pollen, drifting down like sparks of pure goodwill. And Elena reached up to catch a drifting mote on her fingertip, its glow warm against her skin. Catheri's many eyes reflected that glow, and in them swam the echo of RTH's laughter, an echo that now felt like a blessing rather than a wound. Elena pressed her hand against Catheri's limb, a simple gesture of unity, and the Matriarch felt a surge of warmth ripple through her core. Together, they knelt side by side, their silhouettes joined in silhouette against the sapling's slender trunk. And Catheri whispered the traditional blessing of new growth, her voice weaving ancient syllables into a melody that resonated with hope. Elena responded with a phrase she had learned in Ekran language, promised to protect what had been planted, to nurture it with care as one would nurture friendship itself. Around them, the Watchers closed their ranks, lowering their ceremonial spears in respectful acceptance, and the soft hum of their agreement rose like the first chords of an unwritten song. Elena's healer approached and offered a bowl of clear water drawn from the sacred fountain at the citadel's heart. Elena dipped her fingers into the bowl and let cool droplets fall onto the sapling's tender leaves, each drop a vow of compassion that promised to sustain life. Catherine mirrored the action, her touch lighter, but no less sincere. And where the water met the leaves, a faint glow pulsed as though the tree itself recognized its new guardians. The grove fell into serene silence, broken only by the distant cry of night-blooming birds awakening at dawn's edge. Elena rose, brushing earth from her uniform, and Catherine joined her, extending a delicate bloom from a nearby vine. Elena accepted it, tucking the petal gently behind her ear as a token of this shared moment. The Watchers murmured among themselves, their initial doubts softening into curiosity and wonder. Elena turned to Catherine with a bright, hopeful smile, and said, "Together we will grow something beautiful." Her words steady and sincere. Catheria's heart swelled. The memory of loss that had shadowed her 4 cycles seemed to move aside, replaced by a warmth that spoke of new beginnings. As the two women walked from the grove side by side, Their footsteps light upon the soft moss. The sapling stood between them, its leaves trembling in the gentle breeze as if applauding the birth of an alliance that promised to change both their worlds forever. Captain Alina Roy walked through the moonlit corridors of the citadel with measured steps, her dark braids swinging gently as she spoke softly to Catherine beside her. The matriarch's many eyes followed Elena's every move, drawn to the humans. Calm grace and gentle strength. Elena described Earth's seasons, the rise and fall of oceans, the quiet beauty of rain as it tapped against silver roofs in distant cities. She spoke of children laughing in schoolyards, of elders telling stories by firelight, and of people finding comfort in small acts of kindness. With each word, Catherine felt the echo of her lost companion Arth's soft voice, as if those memories had been rekindled by a single spark of hope. In the central garden, glowing vines curled around tall spires, their bioluminescent flowers illuminating carvings of ancient Exaran heroes. Alina knelt and gently traced a petal with a careful fingertip, marveling at its soft glow. She turned to Catherine and offered a simple smile, inviting her to share in that small wonder. The matriarch hesitated, then stepped forward with delicate limbs, her robes brushing the mosaic floor. Together, they examined symbols etched into the stone markers, of sorrow and remembrance, left by generations who mourned loss and celebrated love. Elena's team, standing quietly behind them, uncovered a hidden panel bearing a faded relief of two figures standing side by side, hands joined in unity. The image reminded Catherine of the bond she once shared with Arda, and now felt stirring. Anew with this human, a pulse of warmth spread through her slender form, and she whispered a question about the meaning of the relief. Alina explained how Earth's people honored friends who had passed by, creating lasting art, so that love might live on beyond the life of any one soul. Catherine closed her eyes, recalling Arth guiding her through that same garden under a violet sky. A soft hum rose in her throat as she allowed herself to feel gratitude instead of grief. The matriarch led Alina to a gently burbling fountain at the garden's heart, its clear water reflecting twin constellations that yawned across the alien heavens. Alina dipped her hand into the cool stream and lifted droplets that danced like stars between her fingers. She invited Catherine to join, and when the matriarch's hand brushed Elena's, a spark of connection passed between them. In that shared moment, both women felt a promise bloom that two worlds might learn from each other. Healing old wounds and sowing new hope, Catherine guided Elena's gaze to a cluster of unsupported roots beneath the fountain's edge, where ancient stones bore inscriptions of past alliances forged in times of crisis. Elena's eyes softened with wonder as she read the symbols aloud. Translating Ekaron words into human speech she had learned through long study, she spoke of courage, of empathy, and of the strength found in standing together. The glowing petals overhead and Elena's braid brushed Catherine's robe. The sound of soft laughter drifted from hidden alcoves, where Yesron children watched with wide eyes. Alina knelt to greet them, offering a gentle nod and a soft word that brought smiles of curiosity and trust. The matriarch watched this scene unfold and felt her resolve strengthen. She realized that the human beside her was not an emissary of conquest, but a guardian of peace. As Alina rose, Catherine reached out and laid a slender limb on the human's shoulder in silent gratitude. Together, they turned toward the Citadel's grand hall, ready to share these discoveries with the council. And in the quiet space between their steps, hope whispered its gentle promise that the past could guide the future, if only hearts remained open.